Hello everyone. Welcome back to the another session on deploying Apache Doris with AWS. It's great to have you here. If you can remember in our previous session, we set up two EC2 instances and successfully deployed Apache Doris on them. We explored the front-end UI and learned how to connect it to the backend. Then we brought it all together by linking the backend with the frontend. And it was pretty exciting stuff. Today, we are going to take things a step further and dive into new parts of the project. My name is Juno, and I'll guide you through this project. So let's get started. So as you can see, this is the project architecture diagram that we have. The one that we have already set up is this part, the Apache Doris on EC2 instance, which was the main part, the main data collecting part. Now what we'll do is we'll use Amazon Kinesis to get the data stream, use this data stream to upload the data onto Apache Doris using a Lambda function. Once the Apache Doris has all the user activity data, we'll use a data visualization tool, Power BI. We would not be using AWS QuickSight. We would be using Power BI in this project further. Okay. So in order to have data in Kinesis data stream, we would be using another Lambda function to create fake data, fake user activity data to be very precise, and load it over to the data stream. So one more Lambda function would be added so that we can provide fake data over to Kinesis. So let me jump back to AWS console and take it from there. Okay, I'm here in my AWS console, and the first thing that we'll do is create a data stream using Kinesis. So I have recently visited, so I can see the Kinesis here. You can find the Kinesis by searching in the search box. So let's go and click on Kinesis. As you can see, I have a data stream already created called user activity stream. How you can create is simply clicking on create data stream, name it user activity stream. I'll use a provisioned one, and you can actually select total number of provision shards. I'll be selecting just one. You can have the maximum of like 199, and you can actually increase the quota as well. So as this is demo, I'll just be using one. That's enough for me. And then I'll keep all those settings as it is and just click on create data stream. So I have already created it, so I'll not be creating it again. So I'll just click on cancel. If you go into this user activity stream, we can view the data in the data viewer. We can also do a data analytics part in here using the managed Apache Flink. There are also other configuration that you can look into and also have some kind of monitoring here. Okay, so we have created Kinesis data stream, the user activity stream. What we do now is create a Lambda function to load the data into the user activity stream. Okay, we would be using a Python framework called Faker to create fake user activity data and then load it over to this activity stream. So let's jump to Lambda. I have a couple of them created. So I have this Kinesis data load. I'll just click on Kinesis data load. Okay. If we explore the code using character, I'm using boto3 JSON, uh, importing UID, that's unique identifier, importing random data, and the most important part is faker. The faker is not the inbuilt module in the Lambda server. You need to import it. I have created a layer here. If you see, I have a faker layer that I have added. You can easily create a faker layer. You just locally uh, install the faker module, create a zip file, and then just add it over in the layers menu. So yeah, how you can add a layer is just going back in the Lambda, go to layer session, and just create layer. Give it a name, upload the zip file, give it the architecture and the runtime. In my case, it was Python 3.13. So I'll just select that and click on create. So it will create a layer for you, and you can use this layer in any of those functions that you create. Okay, so I will just jump back to the functions. So it's a very simple function. I have created an event where I can connect to Kinesis. So I am calling the client Kinesis and the region name AP South 1. That's where I have created my user stream. And I have initialized faker. And then I'll be creating fake data here using the faker, as well as uh, selecting random user IDs from 1 to 1000, and we'll be doing it for a loop of 100. So we'll be inserting 100 records in the user stream. We will also giving the partition key as user ID for the user data stream. And once this done, we'll send it over to Kinesis activity stream. So the response would be sent over or inserted into the user activity stream. Okay, so that's the simple code that I'm using to create fake data. So once we do, you just deploy and click on test, and let's do the testing here. Do the test, it executes, and we have 100 records processed successfully. You can also go into monitor, view CloudWatch, and you can check the logs here. You can see 100 records being created and send it over to Kinesis. So this is how you check the logs. So let's check the Kinesis data stream to see if we have the data there. I'll just click on Kinesis, choose my data stream, go to data viewer, choose the shard. I just have one shard, so I'll be clicking on that, trim by horizon, get records. And as you can see, I have fake records created all over. Okay, the first part of loading the Kinesis with the fake data is done. Uh, Now what we'll do is we will look into creating another function that would lambda function that would actually grab this user activity data and send it over to Apache Doris using MySQL connector. Okay, so I have already created that function. Just click on functions. If I go into Kinesis storage data lid, that's the new name I gave. This is the code. I'm using MySQL connector. This again is not an inbuilt module that Lambda has. You need to add it as a layer. I have added it as a layer here. If I click on layers, you'll see MySQL that have been added. Okay, so the same way you edit faker layer, you install it locally, create a zip file, and upload it as a layer. Okay, once uploaded, you can use it in any function that you desire. Pretty good stuff. So I've used my SQL connector. Again, I have initialized Kinesis client, and this is actually optional, but I prefer to use it because it needs to be checked. Like if you have the same user activity stream elsewhere, it actually gives you an idea like where to look into. Okay, I have created a connection in my SQL connector. I have given the Doris public address. 9030 is this MySQL port. I've given the root user, and the password is blank, and the database as DB test, which we created in our early session. So once the connection is created, we'll be running insert into user activity uh, query. Now I have created the user activity on the Apache Doris initially, so I don't get an error of an unknown schema error, because we need to first create that user activity uh, in Apache Doris. So I have done that. I have created a user activity in Apache Doris, and this is the insert code that I will be using. Uh, then it will grab the data from the Kinesis, decode it, and it would be sent as a payload. And the payload would be inserted into data to insert list. And once done, it will execute insert query and data to insert. So everything gets captured here and gets inserted. In the events where there are no records, it will show no records are provided, and once done, it will show you how many records were processed. Okay. In regards to this as well, we need to add a trigger for Kinesis, because as the event runs, you need to define which stream it needs to take the data from as we initialize Kinesis. So we have created a trigger for Kinesis. How you do is click on add triggers, click on source Kinesis, click on which I have just one user activity stream, click on it, enable batch size of 100, I'll keep it as 100, and I'll use trim horizon and just click on add. This is how I create Kinesis events. So whenever Kinesis has new records, it will trigger this lambda function to be loaded into the user activity database table. Okay, so if we go into our Apache Doris frontend, as you can see, I have the user activity table here. I'll just select count star from user activity. I have 400 records currently. So what I'll do is I'll run the Kinesis data load. So what the Kinesis data load would do is it will actually populate user activity stream. Once the user activity stream is populated, it will trigger another lambda that will load the data onto Apache Doris. So let's do that. Let's run this. Let's test it out. So currently you can see there are just 400 records in the Apache Doris user activity table. So let's create 100 more fake uh, records. I'll be clicking on test. Okay, 100 records processed successfully. Now let's see if it triggered another function, the Kinesis Doris data load. So what I'll do is I'll go to the monitor, view the CloudWatch logs, okay, and click on it, and you can see 27 records were inserted into Doris, 22 records were inserted into Doris, okay, and it triggered our Doris data load lambda function. So let's see our Apache Doris database. Okay, we see it's 500, so it loaded the data in Apache Doris. So that concludes our loading data to Apache Doris using Kinesis part successfully. Now what we'll do is we'll actually use Power BI to create dashboard. I have already created a dashboard in Power BI. I'll show you how I did it. So I'll go to my Power BI. As you can see, I have created a simple dashboard here using the user activity string that is actually stored in Apache Doris user activity table. So this simple dashboard shows you the geographic location from where the user has login, the company name along with the user, the total count of user activities, and also the count of user activity by day. So this is just a simple dashboard that we have created. You can do much more than this. This is just a demo. Uh, the way I created this is by connecting our Apache Doris to the Power BI using a SQL connector. Okay, so let's try to do that. I'll click on File. I'll click on Blank Report. Okay, you have an option here saying Get data from another source. I'll click on it. I'll type MySQL. Okay. So Apache Doris has this MySQL connector option that you can use uh, to connect. And if you're using Power BI for the first time, uh, the MySQL data, in order to connect to MySQL database, you need to have MySQL connector. The version that worked for me was 8.0.32. I installed it, and after which I was able to connect to the Apache Doris using MySQL database connection. Okay, so keep in mind, uh, I have used MySQL connector 8.0.32 in order for me to connect to this SQL database. I'll click on the MySQL database, connect. I'll give the public IP address of the Apache Doris, which this is the URL of the Apache Doris frontend UI. We'll use the port 9030. That's the SQL connection port, and we'll be trying to connect to db underscore test. I'll click on OK, and it connects to that. Uh, I You also need to give credential if asked. Uh, that would be you root and password is just blank. So it didn't ask me, but you may encounter that. I'll create. I'll select on the user activity table and just click on load. You can either do transformations here. I just load it out. Okay. So once you load, the data would be loaded here, and you can use the visualization tool here. I've already done that. I'll just click on cancel. I'll just go back, and as you can see, Uh, we have created a simple dashboard using our Apache Doris user activity database table. So this actually concludes our project. We successfully created a user stream. We loaded that data over to Apache Doris, and using Power BI, we grabbed the data from Apache Doris and created a, a dashboard out of it. So thank you for being the part of this project. I really enjoyed working on this project. So do let me know if you have any questions in the comment section. And until then, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.